Welcome back to Mission in Motion, A Minute with Maxwell, where we spotlight leaders who are shaping the future of care, culture, and community in senior living and beyond. Today's episode is all about legacy, leadership, and the power of succession planning. I'm honored to welcome two exceptional guests whose story reflects what's possible when mentorship meets vision. Arta Shala, now Vice President of Operations at Riverstone Retirement Communities, has spent over 25 years growing up in the retirement living sector. Her journey from frontline care to executive leadership is a remarkable testament to resilience, hard work, and people first leadership.
She knew everyone in the property. She knew the families. She knew the residents. Was always walking around doing really good management style.
Joining us as well is Mike Traub, the former VP of Operations at Riverstone and a deeply respected leader in the sector.
Mike had a ton of experience in the industry, so he was in my trajectory. I'm like, okay, this is somebody that I want to work for.
Before retiring, Mike made a pivotal decision to mentor and prepare Arta as his successor. His foresight and belief in internal talent have helped shape a leadership transition that was not only smooth, but deeply intentional.
Arta and I always said we look after the people and then the profits will follow. We never look after the profits, we look after the people. I think businesses that try to just look for the profit and look for it on the dime don't do well at this business. They don't realize the business they're in and the responsibility they have.
Today, we'll explore the how and why behind Riverstone's approach to succession, the personal journey that brought Arta to where she is today, and what other organizations can learn about planning for leadership continuity with heart and strategy. I'm Heather Maxwell, and I would love for you to join A Minute with Maxwell, Mission in Motion. Mike and Arta, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having us, Heather.
So, Mike, I'm going to start with you today, and let me put you on the hot seat first. Perhaps you can start by telling us a little bit about your first job and how your career journey brought you to seniors living.
Sure, thanks, Heather. I graduated from the University of Guelph in hotel and food management, actually in '78 with my Bachelor of Commerce. I went on to work in the hotel and restaurant business in many management positions. In those days, it was long, hard work. It was long hours. I loved what I did, but I was looking for a change. And my grandmother was in a retirement home in Toronto at Central Park Lodge at the time. And I went to visit her. I used to visit her with my golden retriever and take the dog in, and all the residents would react to the dog. It was a really nice environment. And I saw a lot of the similarities of the hotel industry, what we were doing in the retirement business, and then applied to Central Park Lodge for a job. And at 29 years old, I got my first general manager position at Victoria Place in Kitchener. It was a 99-bed facility. It was half full at the time, just after being renovated. And I took it over. I was GM and marketing manager. There was no separate marketing position in those days, which made it that much more fun. You got to know everyone. You got to know families. And eventually, as it filled up, it was a dream job. It was beautiful. It's a lot of fun. And if I'd go around, visit the residents as well and help with activities and such. So that was the start. I got into the business. I loved it and still loved it when I retired recently as well.
Oh, wow, that's so interesting. So you started out more on the hotel side and also did the sales and marketing, and then came over into the retirement setting and did the same similar role, GM, and did some sales and marketing with that as well.
Yeah, the knowledge in the food industry and the restaurant hotel industry helped in dealing with people and such all transitioned well into the retirement business. And yeah, I was young and learning in those days, young and keen, and loved the people aspect and loved filling the property and visiting with everyone. I was used to long hours. I remember working in my office, which was beside reception. And it was 7 o'clock at night, and the receptionist said to me, "Aren't you going home?" And I was thinking to myself, this is early compared to the hotel business. So I had to learn to sort of
Take
modify my hours and take it easy. Yes.
Amazing. I think it was Steve Jobs that said, "If you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life," right? I think that was the quote, and so it sounds like you were just loving what you were doing, right? And we're so passionate about it.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed the business, enjoyed the people aspect of it. And Art and I always, when we're in the office, we always thought the best part was going out to the properties,
Yes.
knowing the residents, knowing the staff, walking around the building. Management by walking around is what
Mhm.
we always said. And it's a good way to do it, and it's good for us too, and that we enjoy them in our.
Good leaders know their people. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's something that we still carry forward, even after Mike's retirements, where our support office is very much present in the homes in the communities.
I love that. That's amazing. So, Mike, as you approached retirement, then, what made succession planning a top priority for you? And why do you believe more leaders should treat it as a strategic responsibility?
Well, as time went on, I was starting to realize that I wasn't the young guy anymore. I was the old guy in the room, and the next generation, as in Arta, had a lot more technical skills and the computer skills and such, which I lacked. And we started as a small business. We started with no homes basically, and building and planning. And it was small at first. I knew everyone. Went to the buildings. We walked around and then it grew into a large operation with about 1,000 employees when I left, and I understand it's about 1,500 employees now. So it's a whole different organization as far as that went. But we pride ourselves for knowing the residents and knowing the staff, and it was very personal to us. Um, then uh, COVID came along, and that was hard. Art and I were there every day in our office,
Yeah.
but we couldn't go to the properties and couldn't walk around, and that was hard, a hard time. But and making decisions for the residents and staff and quick decisions. Um, I was always proud of Riverstone and what we created, and wanted to leave on a high note as well. I was in my late 60s, and we used to joke that I'd work, 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 and then move in, and didn't
Didn't happen
that
that
didn't
way.
happen that way. I felt responsibility to the staff, the residents, the families, and ownership to transition it and a smooth transition. And at that point, many of my neighbors had relatives in our homes, and friends had relatives in our homes. So it was uh, it was very important. And I think all leaders who are leading this type of business should realize they're in the people business, and a lot of people are relying on them, and change is tough, and don't want them to feel the change, the residents to feel the change, the families to feel the change, because we've made an apartment commitment to them, and they made they put a lot of trust in us and the decision they've made to live in our properties. Uh,
Yeah.
Art and I always said we look after the people, and then the profits will follow. We never we never look after the profits, we look after the people, and then the profits follow after that. It's just the way it goes. I think businesses that try to just look for the profit and look for every nickel dime don't do well at this business. They don't realize the business they're in and the responsibility they have. And no time more did we feel the responsibility than during COVID to keep people safe and to
Yeah.
keep the staff safe and everything as well. It really tested us, I think, as far as that
Yeah.
went.
And we were during COVID, we were We were a small, like, our support office didn't exist. We had our director of human resources and Mike and myself. Um, that was it. And because we managed with sort of boots on the ground and we were in the homes all the time, we took a hit that way as well, where we weren't able to go into the homes. We weren't able to go in and support our teams, but we ended up working out of the offices. We never worked from home because we felt that this was a way to support them. Our teams in our communities didn't have the luxury of staying at home and working from home. What should we? So we continue to work from the office. I don't think we didn't close the office at all.
We always showed up. I remember one day in a huge snowstorm in Ottawa going to work, and my wife kind of looked at me sideways thinking, "You going out in this?" "I'm going to work."
Yeah.
And I got halfway to work and realized I can't, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. I turned around and went home because I couldn't see the front door. Yeah. But we always at least attempted to be able
Yes.
and set the example for our staff.
Didn't get the snowmobile out, Mike?
Ah, yeah, it's no, it didn't get snowmobile. That's what it would have taken that day, I think.
Yeah, there were actually some homes that did get snowmobiles out for real. Wow.
Really? Yeah,
I
I
know.
saw a picture of someone cross country skiing by
Yes. Yeah, this is new.
twos.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel leaders should plan for succession planning, and they should be generous with their information. They should be generous to their staff with information and help people move ahead in the business. With Art and I, we're always building, so we always had new opportunities for people,
Yes.
and always moving people ahead and looking for who can fit in different positions. So it's just part of the business. I was running now that Arta is running, is looking who's gonna who can move ahead and who can be part of this puzzle and help us out next with the experience and knowledge at Riverstone.
It's so important, isn't it? It's just that succession planning is just so, so important, and we should always be doing it, right? We really should always be doing it. So, Mike, can you walk us through your decision to mentor Arda into your role? And what did you see in her that made you believe she was the right fit to lead next?
Okay, good question, Heather. Uh, let's see. I hired Arta to open and manage a property, and she was doing a great job. And we 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 agreed on a lot of things. We had sort of the similar work ethic, and it was always fun opening a property too because you're choosing the team. Chose a great team. The place was really humming, doing well, filling well. Families. She knew everyone in the property. She knew the families. She knew the residents. n- was always walking around doing a really good management style. And at the same time, we were building more properties, and the owners were asking me, he said, "Do you need someone else to help you yet?" And no, not yet. Things are fine. And then all of a sudden, I opened a property and nothing went right. And I reached out to artists. I need help. Can you help me? Because she was managing a property at the same time. And before we hired a manager for the other property, she was doing both. And Arda and I had a joke together. I'd say, "Can you do this for me?" She'd say, "Bring it on." And so
Yeah.
we were both working hard and sort of working in the same direction. So it wasn't really planned to bring her to the next step. It was one out of desperation, and she was the right person for the job. The rest is history.
The rest is history.
That goes. So I mentored Arta out of necessity more than even. Um, then Arta and I worked as a team. We discussed everything together, and often, we discussed for the best plan. We discussed most
We
things
made
together
cuts.
and met together. Arta has a strong work ethic. She's very professional. She's dependable. She knows the business very well, passionate about the business. and well respected in the business, as you know as well. Not only that, she has a good sense of humor. We had a lot of fun work. We had a lot of fun working together, and yeah, and the best parts for both of us were getting out into the properties. We got out the properties a lot. Arta just showed me a picture today of her at a 100th birthday party this past Sunday at
Yeah.
the property. So it shows you what kind of what.
This podcast is brought to you by Maxwell Management Group. For nearly 2 decades, we've worked side by side with individuals, teams, and organizations to uncover what makes them exceptional and to help them grow from the inside out. It's not just about reaching goals, it's about creating success that feels deeply authentic and genuinely meaningful. Organizations like people have stories, and when those stories are rooted in purpose, they become powerful forces for attraction, culture, and identity. We are committed to partnering with brands that want to lead with intention, cultivate vibrant workplace cultures, and become the kind of employer that top talent seeks out, not because of perks, but because of purpose. Over the past 18 years, I've had the privilege of leading Maxwell Management Group's growth into a highly specialized national executive search and education firm, one that thrives on values, vision, and the belief that when people lead with purpose, extraordinary things happen. To find out more about our executive search, recruitment, and education services, please visit us at maxwellmanagementgroup.com.
I knew Arta was the right person. She was willing to learn, and she was happy working in an exciting, dynamic environment that was it was hard work and still is hard work. And there's a lot of 1,500 employees. Can you just imagine? There's always something going on, and yet still has time to go to a 100th birthday party and.
Oh, that's so amazing. And that's I think that is the most wonderful thing about the sector we work in is the residents and getting to see those milestones with the residents and their families as well, right? That's so beautiful to be able to experience someone's 100th birthday. Like how often does that happen? That is just amazing. I think I saw some your pictures and that's just amazing art. I love.
Yeah, it was Mr. B is one of our first residents at Sterling Park. So I've known him since we opened Sterling Park, which was 2017. And his daughter reached out about a month ago and said, "Hey, we're having a celebration for dad, and would like to have you as part of the family party because there's one tomorrow that's." The Sterling Park party, and then this was a family. So I was there. It's just so amazing to see, and he's just an amazing individual, but also very grateful for the time that he has in our community and loves it.
And it says something that the family and the resident knows Arta. Vice president of the company knows Arta well enough to invite her. Well, a special person to have at the party.
Absolutely. That says a lot about your leadership. And it also says a lot that he has been with you for 9 years, then it sounds like. It sounds like he's been living with you in your property there for 9 years. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah,
Wow.
he's been there since 2017 when we opened. So he moved in our first month. It's amazing to see when we go, we visit properties, whether it's those that we've opened 16, 17 years ago or those that we opened just now. But we have team members that have been there from day one, but we also have residents. Last year, yes, so in 2025, when in May we have the Riverstone employee appreciation week, and the amount of awards we put together for those that have been with us for 15 years is just it makes my heart so happy.
Yes, that is incredible because we don't hear that too often in today's world that employees are staying for 15 years with one employer, right? We unfortunately we don't hear that much anymore. So that just shows how great what a culture you have as an organization that people are staying for decades still with your organization. That kudos to you because that is amazing. So good to hear. Wow, that's incredible. And so, how did you approach mentoring Arta, Mike, in a practical way? What did that process look like over time?
Well, I think it happened gradually as well. I think we're
It's very
always
organic.
generous with each other's knowledge. Arda was much better at computers and electronic knowledge as well, helped me there. And we as far as operations, Arda was an expert there. We were a growing company. We also were structuring the head office and having more people helping us as well, bringing them on. Arda was always part of the hiring aspect there and had opinion on what we needed next. We made a list, and later on we made a list. We made a list of things that are to be more exposed to: construction, design, budgeting, unions, wages, reporting to ownership, that type of thing. And so I invited Arda to some of the construction meetings, for example, which got her hard hat out and her work boots out, and got into construction meetings. Um, Changed some, got involved in design as well.
Yep.
And Arta loves decorating design, so she met with our designers and helped choose colors and choose all sorts of furnishing stuff. Always had an opinion and a way of doing it a little bit different, which was great, and adding some expertise to it. So, and construction meetings were always fun. Working with the architects, budgeting,
Excellent.
unions are those, in on the union meeting as well. Uh, you-
Fun times.
that's a lot of fun. Yeah, not, but anyway, um, so it it was just more including her in everything, and Arta became busier and busier trying to go to all these different meetings, but was always willing to say yes and come along and learn by it. So I learned from Arta, and Arta learned from me. I think it's a two-way
Yeah.
street as far as that goes. And yeah, it was an enjoyable process.
Oh, that's so amazing. And you know what? Like, we now, for one of the first times, I think, ever have five generations in the workforce. But it shows that every generation has skills, knowledge, and abilities that can be blended and can work together collaboratively for successful outcomes. So that just kind of proves your point, Mike, that, Arta had some expertise that you didn't have, and you had some expertise that Arta didn't have. But together, collectively, it worked brilliantly as you were opening these new homes. It
We
sounds
were a
like.
team, and I remember Arta saying that it's lonely at the top. How do you do that? And I said, I had you. So it wasn't lonely. We were a team, and definitely learned from each other.
Oh, that's so nice. And so, what do you believe made this transition so successful? You just mentioned some of it, that you had complementary skills that you pooled together. And how has Riverstone continued this commitment to internal growth and promotion beyond your
Yeah,
retirement?
my retirement would have to be Arta that comments on that, but I think that the transition was so successful and smooth because Arta was already in the company while it was growing and knew Riverstone through and through, and knew the people and knew the culture, and was already part of it. So it was easy just to transfer some of our knowledge back and forth, and to fit Tarda into the position was an easy fit. I was lucky to have her here and make my retirement quite easy because I knew I was handing it over to someone who would take it forward without much of an pause at all, and was a good fit already, and already doing many of the things. So it was an easy transition, and I could relax and know that things were in good hands as far as that went.
Yes. Oh, amazing. So, in your view, Mike, what's the long term impact of investing in internal succession planning, both on organizational culture and on resident living?
Oh, I think that leaders should be generous with their information and their knowledge and pass it on to the next people, especially in a company like ours that's growing so quickly. We need those people to move forward,
Yeah.
and we need more talent, and the best talent is always the talent that's in the company already. I feel, bring someone in from outside has totally different ideas, and often might not be a fit. Whereas the people we know present the best opportunities there. And I think we should always be generous with information and give them opportunities to take on more and give them opportunities to move forward within the company. I think that's an investment and in the future of a good company. Um, so always look for educational opportunities as well that bring them forward as well.
And I think that it was Gallup that just did a recent survey, and it said that opportunities for advancement are, one of the number one ways to keep your employees and to retain them, right? Is those opportunities for advancement. So that is so great that, you're constantly working to identify your own internal people for advancement, right? Because that is one of the number one ways to retain them. So that's amazing to hear. And so, Arda, what did it mean to you personally and professionally to be mentored by Mike? And how did that guidance shape your leadership today?
Thank you, Heather. Um, th- there comes a point in your career where you get to choose who you want to work for. I was fortunate enough to have met Mike briefly couple of times before sitting down to talk about my future at Riverstone. It was somebody that I admired. Riverstone was always the company in Ottawa that was sought after. Everybody talked about how Riverstone was doing things the right way. They were a stable company, locally owned. Mike had a ton of experience in the industry, so um, he was in my trajectory. I'm like, okay, this is somebody that I want to work for. Um, I remember my final interview before I was hired. I met with you and Bill, who's the owner of Claridge and Riverstone. And Bill asked why I wanted to work for Riverstone, and I said it then. I said it was because of Mike. Um, Now it took few tries and a golf game, but here we are. And you mentioned the bring it on. I think that's when won you over. It was a bring it on, Mike, whether it's projects, whether it's challenges, whatever the case may be. And I recall when we were opening Sterling Park, because I was hired as a general manager to open Sterling Park, our fifth community. And we had some construction delays. And I need to be kept busy, right? So I'm like, Mike, what do you have? What do you have? Where are your policies? Let me do this, let me do that. So we were really a match, I think, and our relationship and the mentorship, if you will, was very organic in that it just sort of happened. But um I was blessed to have 8 solid years with Mike, and they really shaped me how I lead today. And the lessons that I learned the most were the consistency and the integrity, because Mike was the leader that was in the room and outside the room, right? And that's what made a difference for me, and that's how I do my best to show up for my team moving forward to continue making you proud, Mike.
Thank you. And you do.
Aw, aw, that's so nice. I love it. Oh, that's amazing. And so, what advice, Arta, then would you give organizations that say they don't have time for formal mentorship or succession planning?
Heather, there's always time. I don't buy the idea that organizations don't have time for mentorship and succession planning. Um, you have to be willing to notice people's potential. And a lot of organizations I find um, think mentorship programs need to be complex and formal, but they really don't. Mike and I never had a formal mentorship program in that, we sat down and we made this list of things that we had to do, not until like maybe the last couple of months. But um, even informal guidance or a casual conversation, or letting somebody try a new project or a small task that can make a difference. um, I'm gonna share a story with you. It's one of our junior general managers who was promoted from a director of care position into a GM. Continues to do quite well managing the home, whether it's occupancy or resident satisfaction and employee satisfaction. And he came to me one day, and we were ramping up to open our 11th community, Rose Park. This was last March. Um, and he came to me and said, I know I'm not ready to take on a new build, but I want to learn. I want to see how you do it. And can I be part of some of the conversations you have, some of the processes that you put in place? And he ended up being part of the many, many discussions with the general manager that was opening the property, whether it was training. I took him on for different walks while the home was still under construction, just to say, okay, this is where you ought to be a couple of months before the opening. These are the things that you look for, and so on. So that's not formal. It's not complicated. It's sitting down and listening to our team, what they want to do, understanding their potential, and then be willing to invest in it. I think that's the best thing that can happen to any organization. I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, where when we started establishing our support office, 90% or 95% of our support office team comes from our homes. They've been they've worked in sales, they've worked as a general manager, they've worked as DOCs, they've worked all kinds of jobs. We actually have, like, I was gonna say this.
It's a great story.
Um, we have another success story where a senior accountant in our support office, she always talked about wanting to be a GM at one point, and we're like, well, accounting GM, so we it is a reach, and we moved her to one of our homes where she would continue to do the accounting job. Um, but I we both Mike and I wanted to have her in a community where she knows what the day-to-day operations of a community are, and how things transpire, and how you may walk with a to-do list, and at the end of the day you haven't done anything because you were putting out fires or you were talking with residents or whatnot. I can proudly say that she today is an amazing GM and leads a very, very successful home.
Wow, that is incredible. I love that story.
This has been part 1 of Heather's interview with Mike and Arta from Riverstone Retirement Communities. Join her next time in part 2, where together they will explore what people-first succession and legacy leadership look like in senior living. Arta shares her journey from immigrant and frontline office manager to vice president of operations, and how intentional mentorship, trust, and investing in people can transform careers, cultures, and communities in the retirement sector.
So thank you for joining us today. Please feel free to visit our website at maxwellmanagementgroup.com. And also, please like and subscribe to our podcast wherever you download podcasts. Thank you for joining, and see you next time.